Hey Gecko fans, it's Wally with Supreme Gecko. Do you want to see what 100,000 mealworms looks like? Let's take a look right now. I ordered these mealworms from Midwest Mealworms. They had a special. We ordered some micro mealworms. We ordered some large mealworms as well. Today we're going to go ahead and open those mealworms, and you're going to see how we process opening the mealworms and how we store all of these mealworms. This is going to be crazy, folks, because this is very, very different from probably what everybody does with mealworms. So we get this box in, and I'm going to speed this up just a little bit. Oh my gosh, look at all the holes. Justin, Midwest Mealworms, why do you put so many holes in the box? Well, after thinking about this, I know why he does. And that's because he's keeping these mealworms a little bit cooler. If they're a little bit warmer, you know what's going to happen to mealworms? They're going to pupate. So, and as well, if the temperatures are too warm, the mealworms, all of these mealworms that are kept in this one box while shipping, they're going to be a little bit susceptible to the heat that's going on. We just opened this one box. Take a look at how he's packing these. And this is pretty typical of a mealworm shipment. He's got this mesh bag. I'm going to go ahead and open it up, and oh my gosh, did I make a mistake? You'll see it in just a second. So I'm opening this bag up with a razor blade. Why would I open it with a razor blade? I figured it out after the first bag and fixed that problem. But I go ahead and open this, and you can see that the mealworms are packed in this paper. They're all over the place, so we have to separate those. This is a very, very good tip here that I want to share with you guys. So I go through the process of emptying out these mealworms with the paper in there into a large container. This is I think it's like a 50 or 60 quart plastic container. We're going to go ahead and empty everything out. I get all the mealworms out of the bag. We do this because I'm going to shake off those mealworms off of the paper into this container, and they don't go anywhere. They don't end up on the floor. I don't get a bazillion mealworms on the floor and then have to pick them up later. We're going to go ahead and separate out these mealworms from the paper. This is a quick process of shaking the paper. It doesn't really take that long. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit so that we don't go through all the time that it takes to do this. And it's not a whole ton of time. So the mealworms are kept in this paper while shipping to keep them separated as much as possible from each other. The paper doesn't really add a whole lot of weight to the whole shipment, and it's really super easy to shake these off. It just takes a couple of minutes. You can see I'm going through this process. I think there's like 3 or 4 pieces of paper here. You can see the holes in the paper as well. That's where the mealworms are eating. This process, I think Justin sent them out on a Monday. We got them in on a Wednesday, so 2 days, and it was a USPS pickup. This is a lot of mealworms. This is, can you guess? Can you guess how many mealworms? This is supposed to be about 10,000, but I think it's a little bit over. Thank you very much, Justin. I'm picking out a couple of the pupae here. You can see that during the process, these mealworms did turn into pupae. So we're going to keep them colder as we're keeping them to feed the geckos that we have. A couple got away there. I had to put them back in. So we can't use all of these mealworms in one shot. We'll probably keep about 1,000 to 2,000 out so that we can feed those to the geckos. But all the other mealworms that we have here, we're going to put them into pans, and we're going to put them into the refrigerator. And you can see that I keep about, I don't even know how many hundred there are in those pans. I put a piece of paper in, I put some wheat bran in there first, and I put the paper on top of the mealworms, and then go ahead and put a top. Usually the tops are ventilated. And that's how we keep the mealworms in the refrigerator. Now, we'll go through this whole container and take them out and put them into the pans. Wheat, some paper, we're all set. Speeding this up a little bit so that we get through this. And you can see that we're doing the wheat and the paper simply to keep those mealworms dry as possible. Now, they'll eat some of the wheat during their time in the refrigerator, but their metabolism will cool down quite a bit. Now, this is what we're going to keep out. You can see this is probably, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 mealworms. We're going to put some wheat in there so that they'll have something to eat, and then we'll throw some carrots on top of that. Now, we're not going to feed these right away. We're going to store them first and let them gut load, and then we'll feed them to the geckos. Now, this is the second box. And I tell you what, folks, I thought this was the other large mealworms, but this is the small mealworms. Wait until you see how many. Now, I figured it out, and I used a pair of scissors instead of that razor blade, and that worked a whole lot better. This is a lot of micro mealworms. These mealworms are about 1 inch, or not even 1 inch. They're probably about 2/3 of an inch, 3/4. There's a lot of micro mealworms in here, a lot of them. And we're just going to go through the process and get all the paper out. Folks, I think, I've ordered 40,000 micro mealworms in the past, but there's probably about 70,000 micro mealworms in here. I'm just kind of going through this and showing you what they look like. This is a lot of mealworms. Take a look at this. This is one of those bigger sweater box pans. I throw them in there. We're probably going to keep most of these out because we feed a lot of micro mealworms. This amount of micro mealworms, about 70,000 or so, will probably last us about 3 months. And I tell you what, folks, these are super, super, super clean. Check Midwest Mealworms for their micro mealworms. Now, they're going to offer them seasonally once in a while. Not all the time, but if they have them, go ahead and grab them from Midwest Mealworms. Okay, here's our third box. This is adult mealworms again. You can see the size once we get to the mealworms, that they're a little bit smaller than normal big mealworms. They're not super mealworms, obviously, super worms. They're normal mealworms, but they're a little bit smaller. But that's perfect for me because we feed these mealworms to our smaller geckos instead of the big mealworms. And this works out so well for us. Going through all the paper, I tell you what, folks, this process is pretty quick. Look at all the holes in the paper from the mealworms. That's just in a couple of days. They are hungry, hungry hippos and ready to eat a lot of food. And we're going to go ahead and feed them some. We're going to do the whole storage thing in these pans again. A little bit of wheat, a little bit of paper, and we're ready to go. Second pan here, we put the mealworms in and we put the paper in. What did I just forget? Yeah, you know it. I've got to forget something. When I'm doing these videos, it's always something that I have to forget somewhere. Now, Justin, here's the problem. You sent dead mealworms. I tell you, out of these 20,000, I'm going to say 30,000 that we received from Justin because of overage. I bet you there were probably 5 or 6 dead mealworms in the whole container. Shame on you, Justin, for sending dead mealworms. Oh my gosh. I tell you what, folks, for us getting mealworms like this, yep, at this point I realized that I had forgotten the wheat brand for the 2 containers that I just did. But for those dead ones, I tell you, for us, it's an acceptable number to get about 5 to up to 10% dead mealworms with every single shipment. It's just the way it is. We're going to get some that have died and through the shipment because they do stress out, and that's just the way it is. Here we go, folks. A lot of mealworms to put in the refrigerator. These will store. We'll take them out every probably 2 weeks or so to warm them up and feed them again and put them right back into the refrigerator. They'll store forever. Hope you gained some knowledge here. Thank you, Justin from Midwest Mealworms. Make sure that you watch this video right here. I'll throw the link in on how to care for mealworms, more information about mealworms. Again, thank you very much for watching.